Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the second episode of The Hand Does the Talking. I'm your host, Marshall Ellis, with my co-host,
TJ Schubert.
We also have our producer and editor in the house with us today, Ryan Smith.
Yeah.
We've got some great news to report today, and we're also going to be talking about what it takes to make a puppet. We'll be telling stories about where we got our inspiration to make puppets and where you can find inspiration to make puppets. And we'll also be going through some simple steps on how to effectively make a puppet individual.
Some exciting news in the puppet world, everybody. Dinosaur, the show, will be going to Disney Plus. I believe is it coming up in a week or two? And
Dinosaur comes on January 29th to Disney
29th.
Plus.
So that's like in 7 days.
Yep, really soon.
And Muppet Show season 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 will be going to Disney Plus the 19th.
Yep, February 19th. Yep.
February 19th, yeah. I got some opinions about it. Do you have any opinions about these shows at all?
Well, I know a little bit about Dinosaur. I've seen a few episodes. I remember when I was a kid, I got the VHS from the library in Japan for like the first few episodes. And it was kind of weird and it was interesting. So I'll be excited to like actually watch the show and understand what's going on. In the Muppet Show, I've seen the first 3 seasons. I had them on a hard drive, but I haven't seen the last 2. And there's something significant about that, isn't there?
There is. So when somebody have a TV show, the owner stays with the show for 10 years. But after this whole Jim Henson's death, things got kind of messed up with all the rights and stuff, and then it took even longer with the music and some of the sketches. So that's why it's taken forever to get season 4 and 5, and they might be cutting a lot of things out from those episodes just to get the seasons out to the public.
So why would they be cutting out parts of the seasons?
Because they have to really buy they have to buy the rights to sing a song. So there's going to be like gaps through things. You can kind of tell if you go to season 3, there's tons of gaps through episodes. You can tell Kermit the Frog he doesn't look the same in each episode. And you can tell things are missing from the story plot of episodes. But it's just they didn't have the rights to use the song or the guests they want to have it. I don't know. There's a lot of reasonings that we can talk about all day, but I don't think we have time for that. But it's pretty exciting news that it's going to be coming to Disney Plus.
Yeah. Well, hopefully Disney can add as much as they can. I know that they are trying to give fans content to watch because Disney does like having Disney in Jim Henson Company like as a partner. And I know that there's the whisperings of things that are happening, but I think that if we all stay positive, and I think this is a very good positive of good relationship with the Jim Henson Company and with other people who have worked with the Muppets over the years. So I'm excited to watch it. This will be the first time I'll actually see it as a puppeteer. So I'm definitely going to have that different perspective now. So yeah, I'm really excited to see both of those series because Dinosaur is so cool with its huge puppet costumes, and the Muppets has always been just a favorite of mine. So it'll definitely be interesting to take another look at the series that kind of pushed a lot of people towards puppetry.
Yeah, and that's one way to get inspired if you're building characters is watching these kind of shows.
Yeah, because they've got a good range of characters, and it might be the same voice actor and performer, but it's a totally different person, you know?
Yes, exactly.
On that note, I think that's a great segue to head into what it takes to make a puppet.
Yeah.
So
what do you do first? Kind of like walk us through your step, how you create a character.
So that there's kind of two ways that I think about that. I think about it as a character that I might write into a plot of an episode. And that's not like every case, but since I've been developing a show, I'll think of a character and I might just have the lines built and their name. And then I've got to design a character around that. So there can be stuff like that, or it can be things that inspire me just in the world. Like the other day, I was walking to the laundromat of the campsite I'm staying at, and there's this big pear shaped bush. And I thought about, like, that'd be a neat head to make. What would his eyes look like? What kind of hair would they have? Would it be at the top of their head? Would the top of their head be an antenna? So you kind of get this runoff of like, what kind of idea do I have here? So yeah, it can totally be inspired by a shape or just by some words that you wrote down on a paper. It could even be another puppet could inspire you to make your own version, or to kind of just take that shape and then individualize the character, you know?
Oh, for sure. Like when I saw first time, not for the first time, but when I watched the first time watching the Muppet movie, I saw Kermit, and then that kind of created Spike. Just seeing that head shape and the mannerisms, and just seeing that character really shaped Spike and what he is today. And like Goofy from I think Disney. Is it Disney? I don't remember.
Yeah,
Um,
Goofy's a Disney character. Yeah,
okay, we just making sure. And then like seeing Goofy, watching the Goofy cartoons, and I mean like Larry the Lizard Man, that dopey, slow talking lizard dude. Just like seeing the mannerisms and just watching cartoons and the Muppets kind of, I think, helped me
yeah,
play characters, and TV shows too, with Last Man Standing, that Tim Allen's character, seeing that tough but caring person, and just watching movies and TV shows to create a personality and stuff. That's where
yeah,
I find inspirations, is watching other performers or actors. Yeah,
yeah. Even just real people not really involved with puppetry.
of
Um,
course. Yeah.
so that's kind of, I mean, that's how crafting a character starts. And almost immediately after I have a thought like that, I'll pull out a piece of paper and grab my pencil, and I'll start with that shape or with that sentence, and I'll write it down on the paper. And then I'll expand on that. I'll give that shape a body and some legs and some arms. And those are all things that are subject to change no matter, what point of the process we're in. I could be building the puppet and be like, yeah, these arms need to be a little longer and a little thicker. And that's just something that happens. And it could be for the better or the worse. And that's the great thing about puppetry and puppets is you can unsew things and you can change them out.
It's not like carving a sculpture out of wood or ice. Like when you get rid of a part, it's you can't retach it or
Yeah.
add another piece on. But I think
And
that's the cool thing about working with foam and fleece and fur, that you can take things and add them.
yeah. And you have to be, I mean, you definitely have to be careful when cutting fur and foam and fleece, but you can cut another piece and do it another way. And it doesn't make you have to restart the entire project most times. Sometimes you should restart, but that's another topic for another day. And then after crafting it, you think about designing the body, and that usually means, for me, I grab my monster clay and I make a little armature stand, and then I'll shape the body. I'll make a whole puppet body. Basically, it's a sculpture of what I want the puppet to look like, right? Like I've made a miniature version of something that doesn't even exist yet.
Yeah.
How do you start out your templates and stuff, TJ?
How I do it is so first I would draw the design. So let's say I'm making a frog. So I'll make 6 different frogs, different head shape, different eye colors, different body weights, different fingers, and trying to figure out, do I want a frog with polka dots? Do I want a frog like a Kermit shape? Well, and then I'll work with that a little bit. and then I'll pick one and draw in a different angle. So in the front, the back, the sides, close up of the mouth, I will draw the hands, and then I'll kind of imagine in my head how big it's going to be. Then I start working with the head first. I start making that out of foam or fleas, making the patterns, and I kind of just wing it with the patterns, and sometimes it comes out like what's on paper a lot of the time. But I really try to focus on that character and visualize how I want it to look like and be, and that's how I do it. It's very complicated how I do it. I don't know. But that's what I
Wow.
do. It's very weird,
Yeah.
but
That's a lot of
I feel like
faith.
it is. But it's a lot of what I done. I know what works and what doesn't work from past projects.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
so it's just really you gotta know what you're doing, but learning something when you're building and really. I come from a painting kind of side and sculpting, so I kind of put that when I building a character, trying to figure out the different angles and where what needs to be what shape and stuff. So that's what I do. But I think your way is so much easier. I think a lot more fun because you're really making it out of clay and trying to figure out the head shape and then making the patterns just there. I think that's so
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, my method's a little more scientific, but I mean yours is still very, meticulous and thought out. Mine is like, yeah, I make the sculpture of how I want the head shape, and then I'll take Scotch tape. This is a trick that I learned from Adam Krutinger, by the way. Take Scotch tape and you cover it up one half of the head. Then you take that Scotch tape off of the head and you cut you cut the edges of that little sculpture of tape that you have now, and you cut it until it lays flat on your table. And then once you've done that, you can take it and put it on a piece of paper, and you just use that tape and you draw it on the piece of paper, and then you can tweak your lines and straighten them out so that the edges actually work and things kind of like flush and straight. And then you take that and then you blow it up. So there's some math involved. And you blow up that shape until it's 15 times or 100 times bigger. I mean, you can go as big as you want, but yeah, you expand it until it's the actual size you want, and you can do the same thing for the body and the arms and the legs. It's pretty easy to do once you get the hang of it, but after that, you've made your shape. So you spent all that time to make a little piece of paper to make it a big piece of paper. And then you put it on the foam and you got to cut it out. And then you got to glue all that foam together, and then you have to take a new piece of fabric and cover one side of your new skull, and then you have to fold up pieces of the skull to like find where you can cut a piece of fabric to make it all like lay flat, so there's no like rounded pieces to the new fabric shape that you've made, so you made a new template. And that, I mean, that's a lot harder to do, a lot of pins and a lot of wasted fabric, but that's important too, so that you get a very tight and accurate like skin on your skull, because you don't want a saggy bones puppet unless you want a saggy bones puppet, but most times you want the face to be very flush onto your skull.
Just like
um
a human or like an animal kind of. Like if you want like a bulldog kind of character, you can use that as the wrinkles. But if you want it as be tight to the foam skull as possible. That's
yeah,
just what nature is, I guess.
yeah, it's more natural to be up and close on your skull. And even for a dog with droopy lips, you want to have already thought about that and built the shape to mimic those lips. That's something you have to think about early in the process. So there's just so much that goes into making a puppet. And that's definitely something that I want to ask future guests about, like what's their favorite way to bring a character to life. Because everybody's like, just like we figured out today, everybody's got their own special way of doing it. And I mean, I don't do everything exactly how Adam Krutinger does it, and I've started to do things differently, but you develop from somebody and then you make it your own. That's always how art works. So for stuff like that, TJ, do you how do you get from the skull to the skin? How do you do that?
So what I do is I use a lot of paper, like a lot of paper, and I trace it over the foam, and then I after I trace it, I modify it to make it a pattern. I'll cut it out and I'll put it over the fleece or the fur, and then I start cutting and start sewing and stuff. That's what I do. It's pretty, I think, simpler if you're starting out, but there's going to be a lot of trial and error. You got to figure out what places you got to make the cuts if you want to make the head make it more rounder in some places. So you gotta figure gotta experiment with if you're gonna go with my route. Very very complicated, but I think very fast. But yeah, that's what I do. It's nothing really special.
So you're making a paper template, but you're doing it in a way that is just you find it quicker.
Yeah, just tracing the foam over the paper or the cardboard, and then taking that trace what you did, and then modifying it to make a pattern out of it. So it'd be more tighter to the foam, and
Yeah.
so yeah, that's what I do.
You also have to think about where those seams are going to end up on the puppet because
Yeah,
you don't want to take the foam skull that you made that has a giant seam right down the face and 20
yeah.
other seams right on the face to get that
There's
shape that you wanted.
for the heads, I usually just have one seam going down the head, and then I plick it out using a needle or rubbing it to hide the seams. So
Yes.
I usually just use one tire seam, one big stitch,
Right.
because if I have like some, I know some puppeteers did do might do three on this, like one down the middle and three on the sides, but I don't like that because that's what I just do, one giant one, and if it's too big, you can trim it down a little bit, but that's what I do.
Yeah, because it's something that you have to know where that seam is going to end up, and if you can fix that giant line down the face, or if you can hide it with facial features like a big nose and some close eyeballs and some hair. Those are important things to think about when making a puppet because although seams are natural and sometimes effective, they can really take you out of the illusion that this is a living character if you see a giant seam right down the middle of their body, you know?
Yes.
So, just as you grow as a puppeteer, it's something that you think about a lot more and you try and effectively change throughout the process of making a puppet. But it's not like you have to. You don't have to hide the seams, but most people see it as a distraction. So it might be more effective to find a way to get rid of those big lines down the center of your puppet's face. I'm definitely working on that personally because I find it very distracting and I've had some success and several failures at it, but that's what, that's what practice is for. You got to keep
Yes.
trying. So yeah, we've talked about where to sew and how to build and where to bring your character from, but voice is something we haven't talked about yet.
One of the greatest advice Chris Palmieri gave to me was, in bad impression is a good impression for a new character. If you do a bad Kermit impression, you can use that for a new character. If you do a bad Mickey Mouse, you can use it for a new character voice. Or so if you do a bad impression of a character, use it for a new brand new character. Because I can't do a good Goofy. That's how I got Larry. And so always experiment with different voices, like different characters, and just watch some of the cartoons and Muppet stuff to find those fun voices and then experiment with them. Give it like Fozzie Bear a British accent, and you might get a new character out of that. That's what I do when I'm looking for new voices for a character.
So you think that familiarity of it kind of sounds like another person, does that help you engage more with an audience with that character?
Um, not really. If I don't really like copy a voice and like change it a little bit. I like change the whole meaning of that voice.
Hmm.
Really, the I the personalities might be a little bit different. The speech pattern. If you have your normal voice, you can just do a different accent or different tone of that normal voice. You might get different characters just with that. Just
Hmm.
with Frank Oz, it's in did for Grover and Yoda. It's the same voice but different speeching patterns. So if you have a high squeaking character, you can turn the volume of the character to have different character voices, and so just experiment with the range of your voices, but make sure you take care of your voice and don't do voices that hurt your vocal cords.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like with Albert, he's very rough on my throat. So what I do is I'll drink some warm tea before I actually do any performances with him. And then like right after I'm done with Albert, I'll go and drink some tea and just calm my throat down. And it's something that I maintain, and I'm not saying that he like kills me and that like I hate voicing him, but it's just important to know that, you know, this is a little rough and I need to be cautious. And this isn't to like steer you away from developing a character that sounds like this and so angry all the time. You know, like do that, but have in mind that it will, you know, after 6 hours of talking like this all day, you're gonna get a little messed up.
If your
Go ahead.
character is like a main character like Kermit, and so Kermit has a normal voice and Spike has a normal voice, so because Jim Henson did Kermit a lot, so it's just gonna be his voice, but a little bit of rubbery. So if you have a character they be performing a lot, do a simple voice and do a voice that won't hurt you because you'll be doing the voice all day pretty much in recording or filming stuff. If you're working with a character a lot, try and find a good voice for it, good speaking voice, a good tone
Yeah,
that you
definitely
can.
something that you can maintain for a long time. Definitely. You also want to take into consideration how your puppet looks. If your puppet's got big, bushy eyebrows and a long nose, then he better talk like this. And he better be grumpy and he better be old. You know, he can be young too, or she. I don't even, you know, I don't make girl characters because I don't know. They're not something that I can effectively voice. That's what I have a sister for. But you definitely want to center the voice around the story that you've built for that character and how the character looks. If your character is small and has childlike features, that's a kid. That's a light, high pitched voice. If they look plain, give them a normal, you know, a normal voice. Give them your voice, but don't give your voice to every puppet. You know,
Exactly. Yeah.
that's one puppet. One puppet gets to talk like you, and then the rest of them have to talk like somebody else. Because if you're trying to make a character individual in a group of characters that you've built, you definitely want to give them each their own mannerisms and their own speech patterns, or else people are just going to get lost and not associate that voice that you've made with that puppet. They'll associate it with, hey, this puppet sounds like this puppet almost exactly. And that's just something that happens that you have to be conscious about as you grow a puppet family, you know? It's not as much of a problem when you've got your first puppet, but keep in mind that you may want to use your voice for a different puppet.
Yes. You could use your voice, but just do a different accent or change the tone of your voice or have in a different speech pattern. If like I'll be like, "Hi, hi there. I am the little tiger man. I don't know. It's just my regular speaking voice, but change the tone and the accent,
Yeah,
or just play around with that kind of stuff because you can find so many characters just doing different accents. Play around with that kind of stuff.
absolutely. And yeah, you want to have something that is believable. If you're bad at an Australian accent, maybe don't make an Australian puppet or practice your Australian. Um, you want your puppet to be individual, and you want your puppet to be the thing that people think about when they hear your voice or about your puppets group. They want to think about like the main character. So you need to have those shining stars within your group of puppets, and people will pick them for you. People will like what they like, and you just need to know how to perform those characters to be as effective for everyone as they are for you. But be yourself, make your voices individual and original, and don't be afraid to make it weird. Being weird is what makes puppetry so great.
Yes. And talking about creating a character, I one of the things I always say is the voice matters, but it matters less than the personality. The personality means a lot for a character, and then it's the voice. So
Right.
I just want to get that through people. The voice matters, but it really the personality. Just with I'm hearing a lot with like Matt Vogel with the new Kermit. Doesn't sound like Kermit, but the personality and the love is still there for Kermit. The voice might be a little
Yeah.
bit different.
It's and that's the thing with the Muppets especially. It's hard to let those old actors go because that's what people hear. And if you've got someone who's doing their best, it sometimes it just doesn't come off the same, you know? The new Kermit voice is fine and it's great and I like it, but it's different and you can tell it's different. But that doesn't make Kermit any less Kermit, you know? Like
Exactly.
he's still him. The mannerisms are still pretty much the same, and he's still the calm at most times, but flustered frog that we all know, you know?
Exactly.
So that's a good point. You need to have a character that people are like that is that puppet. And just like how you've built your puppet to emote eyelids or with a face that he can pull in and wince. Those are all little gimmicks and mechanics that you can put into a puppet, and that's something I'd like to talk about on another episode in more detail. Is what kind of gimmicks you can put into a puppet to make it more of your own. You definitely
Yeah.
want to make you definitely want to make the performance memorable as well, because without a good performance, the voice is almost lost. You have to bring that puppet to life, not just with the voice, but with how they move and how they gesture, what their
Yes.
mouth does when they end a sentence. You have to bring the puppet to life, or the voice is just lost.
Yes. One of the good things that I like to do when I'm creating a character, when I create Spike, I watched a lot of snake videos with how they move their heads and how they attack a prey, or and then I watch a lot of monkey videos for how they jump around and how they walk, and a lot of lizards and and how small kids react. So you just got to study the living creatures around us and see how they move around and how they react to different things. So that's what I do when I did Spike talks. I had Spike turning his head a lot, twitching some places or scratching the head, trying to figure out different ways, small things that you can bring the character alive with a little scratch of the nose or a little twitch of the nose or just looking around and just listening and just nodding the head, sort of bringing it to life. So if you have like a monster, just watch gorillas or bears and how they walk and perform. Or you have a little girl, just watch maybe your cousin, how she react to her toys and stuff, trying to figure out different mannerisms that you could bring into a character. That's what I do a lot, is just study things around us.
Yeah, that's really important. I think that focusing on a few creatures or animals is a great way to develop an individual character. That's something I'd like to talk about some more on another episode. We'd love to bring those to you and really dive into what we can do to make a puppet more believable. We would love to have your comments on what kind of tips you think you could really benefit from. If you do have comments like that, you can send us an email, which will be down in the description, and we would love to answer your questions. I think that is a good start to a conversation on what it takes to make a puppet. TJ, do you have anything else you think you'd want to add this week?
I think we're all good.
Don't forget, on January 29th, Dinosaurs is coming to Disney Plus, the entire series. And on February 19th, The Muppet Show seasons 1 through 5 are coming to Disney Plus. If there's any more news before then on if the series is going to be the complete series or if they're going to be editing out bits, we will let you know. But be sure to check in on Disney Plus. And if you don't have Disney Plus, get a subscription. It is so worth it. And watch The Muppet Show. If Disney sees that people are excited, and if we send them all our letters of like, please give us more, they will start making more stuff because the Disney always aims to please. And I think that they've done a really great job with a few projects that they've had, but they definitely need to start paying attention to the Muppets. And I think that this is our chance to help them understand what we want. Okay. So those dates again are January 29th and February 19th. Thank you so much for coming and listening to the second episode of The Hand Does the Talking. We're so glad and excited to share with you and just have a great conversation about puppetry and what makes puppeteers tick. We hope to see you next week with episode 3.